Hey everyone, welcome back to ACT Math Quick Hits, where you can make one small change in watching these videos. It doesn't cost you a lot of time, it doesn't cost you any money, and what you can do is help improve your ACT math score. There's the rundown of the ACT math section, and now let's get right back into it. All right, today's question has what it says is which of the following expressions is equivalent to y plus 7 cubed. So what we have here is we have a binomial, two terms, that is being multiplied by itself 3 times. That's what the exponent of 3 represents. So a very common error with these types of questions is people want to apply this cube to both pieces inside, where they end up with y cubed plus 7 cubed, and 7 cubed is at 343. However, that's incorrect. Right? When I have the cube, that just means that thing needs to be multiplied by itself 3 different times. So this part is incorrect. So we don't want to do it that way. That's a very common trap to fall into, and ACT knows that. That's why they put that choice D on the bottom there. So we could actually strike through this choice D. Like let's use one of these tools here, right? It says answer eliminator. So let's get rid of choice D right off the bat. Okay, so now that we know what not to do, let's figure out what we should do. So we can work through this algebraically, right? So like I said, this really just means y plus 7 times itself 3 times. And then what we would have a whole bunch of distribution to do. So we would have to do this distribution to this distribution to this, and do all that multiplication, and then we'd end up with y squared, plus some stuff. And then we'd have to do the distribution again to that other y plus 7. So it's not terrible. It's just a bunch of multiplication. However, that can get kind of clunky. And we can make a mistake in there and then end up at the wrong spot. So again, we can use Desmos to help us out with this, because what we'll do is we will graph what they gave us, and then we can just go through and graph each answer choice. So that might take a little bit more time, possibly, but the distribution also takes some time. But this is kind of like a more straightforward way for us to get there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to graph that original expression. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace that y with an x, just because Desmos uses the x-y relationship. It's not going to change anything in terms of what my graph is going to look like. I just don't want Desmos to get confused, because it might not actually be able to produce that graph if I put a y inside that place. Okay, so this is what they gave us. And I only have 3 other choices to go through. But remember, when I kind of started doing that distribution, like you saw, we ended up with a y squared. None of these other things actually have a y squared. So from there, we could probably eliminate all those other choices and just pick choice A and move on, because we just did one small round of distribution. But again, if you didn't understand how to do that, you're on the test, panicking a little bit, forgot that piece. Well, let's just go through Desmos and start putting these in. So that first answer choice is y cubed plus 21. So again, I'm going to change it to x, right? So x cubed, and then it was plus 21x squared. Right, I'm going to have to go back and forth because it's kind of long. Plus 147, and again, I'm calling it x, and then plus, I think it was 343. So if you notice, right, if I turn off the red, right, I see the black. If I turn on the red, I only see the red. So these two graphs line up right on top of each other, which tells me that these two expressions are equivalent. So, right, I use that like strike through thing, but now I know I'm ready to answer my question, right? It should be choice A. I'm ready to move on. All right, thanks everyone for watching today. Again, I know that this isn't the most exciting stuff. There's probably tons of other videos you'd rather be watching, but your future self will thank you when they're taking the ACT, because you'll have extra knowledge and extra practice, and you can do better. Thanks, everyone.